There are designers who follow fashion, and there are designers who create it. But then, once in a rare while, there is someone like Giorgio Armani. Someone who does not simply create fashion, but quietly changes the very way we see ourselves. Armani's genius was never about spectacle. He was not a showman in the way that some designers were, with fireworks on the runway or impossible silhouettes meant only for the flash of cameras. His revolution was invisible, subtle, whispered. And yet, it reached everywhere. From the red carpets of Hollywood to the quiet streets of Milan, from the glossy magazines of the 1980s to the everyday wardrobes of people who simply wanted to feel at ease in their own skin. In the mid-1970s, when Armani first began to make his name, the fashion world was still under the spell of rigid glamour. Men's suits were stiff, armored in structure. Women's evening wear was heavy with ornament. Armani looked at all of it and thought, this is not how people want to live. He cut away the padding, softened the shoulders, let the fabrics flow. A jacket became light, almost like a shirt. A dress moved when the body moved. Clothing was no longer a cage. It was liberation, and liberation was always at the heart of Armani. He believed that elegance should free you, not trap you. That clothing should support your life, not dictate it. His style was built on restraint, clean lines, natural tones, quiet sophistication. But restraint, in Armani's hands, was never cold. It was intimate. It was a way of saying, I see you. I see your presence, your character, your humanity. The clothes are only here to frame it. The 1980s turned Armani into a cultural force. Think about that decade. Skyscrapers rising, money moving faster than ever, people stepping into offices with dreams of power. Armani dressed this world. He gave women the power suit, wide shoulders, soft tailoring that let them enter boardrooms once closed to them. He gave men jackets that spoke of strength, but not of arrogance. His suits were a new kind of uniform, one that suggested authority, but also ease. And then, of course, there was Hollywood. American Gigolo, 1980. Richard Gere, opening that wardrobe filled with Armani suits in shades of sand, taupe, gray. The moment was electric. Here was masculinity that wasn't armored. It was fluid, sensual, modern. That single film changed the way men around the world wanted to dress, and it turned Armani into something more than a designer. He became a symbol of a lifestyle, a mood, an aspiration. From that point on, Armani was everywhere. Red carpets shimmered with his gowns. Stars like Jodie Foster, Cate Blanchett, Julia Roberts, all found in Armani the balance between glamour and understatement. His clothes never overwhelmed. They allowed the person to shine. That was his true artistry, making fashion that never screamed, "Look at me," but instead whispered, "Look at her." But here is the part that lingers in memory: the nostalgia. Armani's rise happened in an era before social media, before likes and algorithms, before fashion shows were live-streamed to millions. Fashion in those years was experienced differently. It was slower, more intimate. If you saw an Armani suit in a shop window, you paused. You walked in, touched the fabric, felt the drape on your shoulders. It wasn't about taking a picture for others to see. It was about the private thrill of wearing something that transformed the way you felt. In magazines, the images had weight. A Vogue spread featuring Armani wasn't something to scroll past in 2 seconds. It was something you cut out, saved, pinned to a wall. People lived with those images, dreamed about them, carried them for months. Armani's designs existed in that kind of time, not instant, but enduring. And maybe that's why his clothes hold such nostalgia today. They remind us of a world where fashion was not about constant novelty, but about permanence. When owning a jacket or a dress from Armani felt like a milestone, not because others would see it online, but because you would carry it through your life. His clothes were made to last, not just in fabric, but in memory. Even the way Armani presented fashion was different. His runway shows were quiet, almost meditative. There were no theatrics, no chaos, just models walking with dignity in clothes that spoke for themselves. He trusted the audience to notice the details: the curve of a lapel, the softness of a sleeve, the exact shade of beige that seemed more complex the longer you looked at it. Armani's influence also went beyond clothing. He reshaped what we mean when we say luxury. Before him, luxury was about excess, about being seen. Armani showed that luxury could be invisible, that it could be a lining only you feel, a cut only you notice, a color that looks simple but is impossible to copy. He made luxury democratic, not cheap, never ordinary, but available to anyone who valued subtlety over spectacle. And this is perhaps why Armani became timeless, because his philosophy was never chained to a trend. He didn't chase the youth market. He didn't redesign himself every season to stay relevant. Instead, he built an aesthetic that was steady, consistent, like an architectural foundation. People returned to him year after year, not because he surprised them, but because he reassured them. In a world of noise, Armani was silence, and silence, we now realize, was his greatest strength. In an age that glorifies speed, noise, and spectacle, Armani stood for patience, calm, and permanence. His designs didn't just dress the body, they dressed the spirit. They made you feel centered, grounded, whole. Today, as we look back on his life, there is grief, of course, but also a deep gratitude. Gratitude for a man who believed in restraint in a world that rewarded excess. Gratitude for a designer who reminded us that clothing should never hide us, but reveal us. Gratitude for the quiet revolution he carried out over 5 decades, one unstructured jacket at a time. And when we think of Armani now, we don't just think of the runways of Milan or the stars of Hollywood. We think of moments. A young woman in the 1980s slipping on her first Armani jacket and feeling like she belonged in any room. A man in the 1990s realizing that softness could be powerful. A teenager cutting out a photo from Vogue and dreaming of a life where elegance meant freedom, not constraint. That is the cultural memory Armani leaves us. Not just clothes, but feelings. Not just trends, but transformations. Because while the world will continue to chase what is new, Armani's legacy reminds us of what is eternal. That true style is not about being noticed, but about being remembered. And Giorgio Armani will be remembered, not for the noise he made, but for the silence he left behind.